Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Across the South. We've got the SEC Championship to talk about, the college football playoff, upcoming bowl games, and the individual awards given to those who have earned it in the SEC. So, all that's coming up here on Across the South. Let's get it started right out the gate with the SEC Championship. You had Georgia versus Alabama for the third time in the last 5 years. And throughout the meetings of Georgia and Alabama in the SEC Championship game, Alabama has been the dominant team to come out on top. That wasn't the case. Alabama didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. Georgia came out on top 28-7, and they made Alabama look like a 7-5 team. Alabama wasn't 10-2. They looked 7-5 during this SEC championship game, and it kind of gave you flashbacks to week 1 whenever Alabama played Florida State. They didn't have a run game. They finished with -3 rushing yards. Gunnar Stockton was dialed in, as he has been, 20 for 26, 156 yards, and 3 touchdowns. On the other end, with Ty Simpson, 19 for 39. Just let that sink in for a little bit. He threw for more yards with 212s, but he only had 1 touchdown, which was in the fourth quarter, as well as 1 interception. With the way that Georgia played this game, their defense was dominant, their offense was efficient. They looked like they were ready to go into the college football playoff bracket and come out on top with the national championship. That's what this Georgia team looked like. Alabama, on the other hand, there was no fight. It didn't seem like they wanted to be there, like they were wanting to win the game with a lot on the line. You know, there's never been a 3-loss team to make it into the college football playoffs, and they were already sitting with 2 losses. So they were really needing to come out with a win in order to keep that spot in the CFP. And lucky for them, they kept it. They stayed at the 9 seed even after the SEC championship loss. I don't agree with it. Whenever I saw the results that Georgia won and even the BYU Texas Tech game in their conference championship, the little stat bar on the bottom was like, if Texas Tech wins, 99% chance of getting in. If BYU wins, 99% chance of getting in. If BYU loses and Alabama loses, then BYU has like a 99% chance to get in. That wasn't the case. So here's how the first round is looking right now, or what the first round is. It's not even looking. This is set in stone what the college football playoff bracket is going to be. You have number 12, James Madison, at number 5, Oregon, and the winner of that game will go on to face number 4, Texas Tech. Number 9, Alabama, at number 8, Oklahoma. So there's the rematch from the regular season. Oklahoma kind of gets the benefit of the doubt, seeing as they've won twice against Alabama the past 2 years. So you're kind of thinking Oklahoma's going to get the win again at home. If they do, they will go on and face number 1, Indiana. Then you have number 11, Tulane, who beat North Texas in the Group of 5, the American Conference Championship. At number 6, Ole Miss, without Lane Kiffin. And the winner of that game will go on to face number 3, Georgia. Then you have number 10, Miami, if you remember last week, was Notre Dame, at number 7, Texas A&M. So Miami gets the bump, and they get put in, and Notre Dame gets left out. The winner of that game will face number 2, Ohio State. Quick tea break. I'm going through a little bit of a cold. I'm trying to get through it, so there might be some drink breaks, or if you hear me sniffle, I'm fighting to get through it. But like I said, there hasn't been a number 3 or a 3-loss team to make the college football playoffs. Even before the expansion, 2 losses is all you really got. And if there was another team that had just 1 loss, they were getting in. and that was your 1 through 4. That was all the college playoffs used to be. Well, then they expanded to 12 teams. Still, with the expansion that began last year, only 2 lost teams got in. So what happens here? So Alabama gets in, BYU gets snubbed because, like I said, they had a 99% chance to get in if Alabama loses since they became a 3-loss team. But BYU doesn't even get in. They finished with an 11-2 record, and both of their losses came to Texas Tech. One in the regular season, one in the conference championship. Both to Texas Tech. So you have a good enough record to be part of the college football playoffs. But everyone is talking about Notre Dame. Why did Notre Dame not get put in? When throughout the weeks, everyone was arguing, why is Miami not in? Look at the head-to-head. Miami beat Notre Dame in the head-to-head. Well, now Notre Dame's out. Miami gets put in, and all of Notre Dame fans are up in the air like, well, we've been ranked in the 11th seed for this long. Why are we not in the college football playoffs? Why now did we make the decision to leave us out? All you have to look at to kind of come up with your solution as to why that happened, look no further than the Arkansas athletic director, Hunter Yurachek. You're probably thinking, what does Arkansas have to do with this? Well, Baylor's AD, I can't think of his name, but he was the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. He resigned and was then replaced by Hunter Yurachek. So Hunter Yurachek is now the chair of the College Football Playoffs. He gets the final say. You have the committee that brings up, I think this team should be here, this team here, and he gets the final say, puts the seal and the stamp on the paper that says, here it is, this is what it's going to be. You already see and have heard about Arkansas's athletics this year in football alone, from the firing of Sam Pittman and that we're not in a position to go and compete for the college football playoffs or our national championship. So his focus isn't on football. He makes horrible decisions, hence the Sam Pittman hire. So flashback to 2019, Arkansas gets rid of Chad Morris, who was hired on after Brett Bielema. He goes winless in 2 seasons, and it's like, okay, restart, hit the panic button. We need a new coach. Who are we going to look at? He settles on Sam Pittman, who has never been a head coach, and he was an O-line coach at Georgia. I mean, fair point. He's helped recruit a lot of good players at Georgia, so you have the recruiting standpoint of that. But here is who was also in contention for the Arkansas job back in 2019 before Sam Pittman became the final decision and was hired. You had Josh Heupel, whenever he was at UCF, who's now the head coach at Tennessee. They're doing great. You had Lane Kiffin when he was at Florida Atlantic, who then went to Ole Miss and is now at LSU. You had Matt Campbell at Iowa State, who has stayed there, but just recently got hired as the head coach of Penn State. You had Mike Norvell when he was at Memphis, who is now at Florida State. Gus Malzahn, who was at Auburn, who's now the offensive coordinator of Florida State. You had Barry Lunney Jr., who was the interim head coach after Chad Morris's fire, and he was now an offensive coordinator at Illinois with Brett Bielema, and they've had some pretty decent seasons. You had Billy Napier at Louisiana before he went into Florida, and then now he's been fired and is hired on as the head coach at James Madison. And then you also had Mike Leach, who was at Washington State before he went to Mississippi State, and then later deceased. But that kind of gives you the idea. I mean, even the coaching hire with Ryan Silverfield, there's a lot of big name coaches, John Gruden, James Franklin, big coaching names that could have come to Arkansas. And then there's this just wild card of why'd we go here? That if you can kind of base your opinion off that, you can see why Alabama got to stay in and why BYU got snubbed out, even though they should have been replaced and BYU should be playing against Oklahoma. So there's the quote from Hunter Yurachek when he was asked about why Alabama is still in, even after losing the SEC championship. And he says, their body of work in those first 12 games where they had probably the best win arguably this season, winning at number 3 Georgia, having a win against Vanderbilt. Take that as you will. Vanderbilt has had a good season, but it was a close win. A win against Tennessee as well. Their strength of schedule was the highest in the top 11, so you have the strength of schedule argument. And we felt like, in spite of their performance yesterday in the conference championship, which was abysmal, they deserve to stay in that number 9 spot. This sweet tea is helping me get through. And so you hear that quote and you're thinking, okay, yeah, they had some big wins. They've got one of the top strength of schedules within the top 11, because number 12 went to the AAC champion. You still have 3 losses. And with the performance that you gave in the SEC championship game, because you barely beat Georgia in the regular season, and then you get blown out in the conference championship. You barely beat Vandy. I don't remember their score against Tennessee. I think they kind of whooped on Tennessee that game. But the BYU argument is still there. Like, if you're going to include the group of 5 teams that won their conference champions, like Tulane and James Madison, you have to make the same argument with BYU that their 2 losses were only to Texas Tech, once in the regular season, once in the conference championship. So why do they get punished for the conference championship and Alabama doesn't? You can't, I guess the saying was, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So, I mean, the only thing that I could think of is that because Hunter Yurachek is part of the SEC and Greg Sankey wants all the SEC teams in there, then he made a convincing enough argument, or just said, forget the committee, this is what's going to happen. I'm putting my name next to my name on the line at the bottom that says this is final, and I'll take the heat because he's going to be gone after all of this. Like, he sat in just for this year, the end of this year, and then the new chair will be elected. So, I mean, he kind of can get away with just being like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll put Alabama in. We have a lot of SEC teams, and I'll never talk to the people on this committee ever again. That's another way to look at it. But the story hasn't gone or been based around BYU. They're kind of off in the corner. Like, if you ever go to your grandma's house, there's a bear on a chair in the corner, and it's just kind of there. That's BYU at the moment. Right now, everyone's talking about Notre Dame. So, what did Notre Dame do after the decision came that they're no longer going to be in the college football playoff? Well, 1, they opted out of their bowl game. 2, they wrote up a new MOU. So an MOU stands for Memorandum of Understanding. This is what it is. Notre Dame is guaranteed a playoff spot if it is ranked in the top 12 of the final CFP rankings. So it's guaranteed. So if they're in the top 12 like they were this year, they can't be moved. They're set in stone. They're in the top 12. That's where they're going to be. If the same situation from 2025, this year, happened next year, where Notre Dame at number 11 and Miami taking the last at-large spot because of the way the ACC championship played out, Duke beat Virginia. Otherwise, Virginia would be in that spot. But Miami was ranked higher, so they get put in. If that were to happen, Miami would be bumped and Notre Dame would be in. So they're basically just saying, hey, everything you did this year, you're not going to do next year. We're going to be in the college football playoffs. And we will pay whatever money we will or we can to make it happen. That's what all of this is. It's them being independent, not being in a conference. They're reaping what they've sowed. They've had chances to go and join a conference, but they don't want to anymore. They had to deal with the ACC because that was going to be their big wins. They were going to stay independent, but they were going to play more ACC teams because the ACC was growing and becoming powerful. Well, then now they're just picking teams and they say, hey, look at our record. And it's like, well, who'd you play? If you didn't play anyone of significance, then, I mean, what's the point? You can have a good record, but you didn't do anything. You didn't prove to us that you're good. You just played bad teams that you knew you could win against. So anyway, if this happens again next year, if Notre Dame's at number 11, they're going to be guaranteed a spot in the college football playoffs. The other teams are just going to have to deal with it. They get bumped. If the field eventually expands from 12 to 14 teams, there's also talks of it going to 16. I think it's too many because eventually we're going to have March Madness in December. It's too much football at that point, at least for the college football playoffs. And then you take away from bowl games and everything of that sort. I'd be okay with 14, maybe 16. Anything above that is too much. But if the field eventually expands from 12 to 14 teams and the number of at-large berths increases from 7 to 9, then Notre Dame is guaranteed in if it finishes number 13 or better. So basically, it's the same as the first one. If they're in the top 12, they're guaranteed. Well, if we expand and you get 13, then you're automatically in. It's basically just, if you expand, we're going to get guaranteed a spot because of our ranking. So because of this MOU, there are a few teams. I'm not sure. There haven't been anything in particular. There haven't been any names of schools or anything of that sort. But it sounds like there's some teams that are looking to freeze out Notre Dame. Because with the results of all of this, everyone's saying, join a conference. Like, join the Big Ten, join the ACC, do something to where, because everyone else is going to have to deal with the consequences of their conference championship game. And they get to lean back on that when it comes to the decisions being made for the college football playoff bracket. If you don't have that and you're just based off your regular season, that's what we're going to have to base you off of. Because there's no, well, did you win your conference? And so through all of that, everyone's like, join a conference, join a conference, join a conference. And Notre Dame wants to keep their independence. But because they want to keep their independence, they get to make their own schedule. Then they're going to teams and saying, hey, we want to play you. No, I don't feel like playing you. Look at the fit you just threw. I don't know. I don't want to play you. You know, if Notre Dame's trying to get stronger teams and face stronger teams, if they want to play Alabama in the regular season, Alabama doesn't have to. Now, they have to choose another Power 5, Power 4 team because that's part of the SEC scheduling that's been made new, is that it's a Power 4, Power 5, I think Power 5 team or a Notre Dame. So if the SEC goes through and they just schedule all different, like if it's just an SEC, ACC challenge in football, then Notre Dame's left out trying to go and find teams in the Big Ten and other teams in the ACC that they're going to have to play in order to build up their strength of schedule. And if those teams opt out, well, then Notre Dame's stuck. And there's nothing that they can do outside of just saying, okay, we'll forego our independence and we'll join a conference. And I mean, I said it last week, 2 weeks ago, that's what needs to happen. Because Notre Dame's been getting away with it for far too long. We've seen them go to championship games as well as the playoffs. And whenever it comes to an SEC team or a stronger team of the Big Ten, they lose. And they can't handle it. We watched it last year whenever they faced Ohio State. They couldn't get it done. We've seen it when in years prior when Notre Dame faced Clemson or faced Alabama with the college football playoffs. I think they put up 3 points against Alabama that year in that game. So if Notre Dame wants something to happen, they're gonna have to do what they don't want to, and that's join a conference where you have revenue share. And I think that's the biggest problem is because they remain independent, they get as much money as they want, and they can just use it willingly. Whereas in a conference, it's all been split evenly and fair because you have so many teams that you can't allow another team an advantage or to have advantage. And Notre Dame doesn't want to give that up. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future with Notre Dame, but I mean, it's probably going to be a year, if not 2 years, where we have to see how Notre Dame goes about their scheduling, where they place in the rankings next year if they get to the playoffs. If they get to the playoffs, then, that's they're going to keep doing what they're doing because then they've figured it out. But if they get left out of the playoffs again because of strength of schedule or because a top rank gets put in and Notre Dame gets bumped, then maybe they'll start looking at changes. But it's sad that BYU got snubbed because they should be in over Alabama. And yes, this is all SEC podcast, but to be fair and square, Alabama has 3 losses, and there's never been a 3-loss team in the college football playoffs. They didn't do enough. You can argue the regular season. I still don't think they did enough. With that strong of a schedule, there are other teams in the SEC. I think Florida had the toughest strength of schedule. Now, did they finish with a 10-2 record? No. But at the same time, yes, they beat Georgia in the regular season. They won by 3. They lost by 14 or 21. That's too significant of a loss to say, yeah, they're still good enough to go into the playoffs. And then you just recreated a matchup with Oklahoma, which we've already seen in the regular season where Oklahoma beat Alabama. So what's the point in keeping them? We've seen these games play out. Why keep them? Now, I will say the Alabama-Oklahoma game will be December 19th. The other 3 games will be December 20th. Why it's played on the Friday before and not with all the other games, I don't know. But just know if you're an Alabama fan, you're going to play a day early. As far as the other games, you'll watch them on Saturday like every other college football Saturday. But Notre Dame gets bumped. They're mad, so they opt out of their bowl game. I don't agree with it. I don't think bowl opting should be a thing, not for players, which seems to have been fixed because the transfer portal has been moved to January. And then I think it needs to be fixed for teams. And, I think if you're invited to a bowl, then you should go. And I've drank so much tea, I'm burping. I don't know if it's the coach's decision, the athletic director's decision, or the player's decision. I've seen reports where players can vote, no, we don't want to play in the game. I don't see why you would want to do that. If you're looking to go to the NFL, that's just going to help your draft stock because you go out and you perform. On a coach's standpoint, you've had a successful enough year to go to a bowl game. That brings in revenue. So the athletic director should be happy about going to a bowl game. You bring in revenue because you get paid. If you make it to a bowl game, you get paid. Your school gets money to go to a bowl game. Everyone benefits. So why opt out? And this has been very controversial, and there have been many SEC voices based around this. I know Paul Feinbaum has had his opinion. There's even been SEC coaches who have voiced their opinion. Clark Lee of Vanderbilt is one of the more opinionated people in this discussion, and I think his opinion holds a lot of value because Vanderbilt hasn't always been great. Very rarely did they get to go to bowl games, and now they've gone to 2 last year and this year. And so whenever he was asked what he told his team when they found out they didn't make the college football playoffs, because Vandy finished 10-2, they had an argument to go into the college football playoffs as well. But Clark Lee simply said, the message was we had control over this, and we did not do enough. I think it's really important that we take ownership. The world expects us to be disappointed right now, but what we are is excited. That's a coach right there. That is a coach. We didn't do enough. We'll take the blame for not making it. Next year, we're going to make sure that we do enough to guarantee a spot. But we didn't do enough. Whether it was scheduling, whether it was because they had 2 losses and who they lost to, for whatever reason, they're taking the ownership. And they're going to come back next year and be better. And they're going to go into this bowl game and be like, hey, we didn't make the college football playoffs, but we still have another game to play. And we're going to go play it. He even goes on to say, we love playing football here. There was no way we were going to end this story early. I mean, it's been a record year for Vanderbilt. 10-2, when? 1960s? 1950s? That's how long it's been since Vanderbilt has had like a 10-win record. They don't want it to end. So why does Notre Dame? You've gone this far. You want to make an argument to the college football playoffs that you deserve to be there? Go win your bowl game. That's what's going to make... Dang, did you see Notre Dame go against whoever and beat them 70-14? Why wouldn't you? Get competitive. Get better. Why are you going to take competition away? That's what this sport's based off of, is competition. If you want to be a starter, you have to beat the 3 other guys that are there with you. So you're not second string, third string, or riding the bench. If your seniors opt out and don't want to play, say, hey, coach, I don't feel like being in this game. Okay, let's get the junior in there. Let's get the freshman in there. See what they can do. Yeah, it's a bowl game, but we can learn and they can go ahead and get big-time game day experience, because they're going to still be here next year and the years after for whenever we do go to a college football playoff. Excuse me. I mean, I don't see bowl opting as a thing that should happen. Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian: a bowl game is about celebrating a season and finishing a season the right way. I mean, these are guys who understand the point behind a bowl game. They're not looking at it as for the revenue. That's for the athletic director to worry about. Hey, we're getting this much for playing in this bowl game. Cool. Here, coach, here's an extension. Here's your new NIL roster money. We can put this into the program, into the athletic department. We can build better facilities, get you new workout gear. That's what the athletic director is there to focus on, is the money. The coach is there to focus on the kids, the football team, and the season that they've had. Here's Steve Sarkisian saying a bowl game is about celebrating. That's what it's for. You know, you can sit there, you could lose your bowl game. Hey guys, still a great season. Look where we made it. Look how far we've come. We thought that we were kicked out early in the back of people's minds early this season. We're not going to make it. We're da-da-da-da-da. Look at us now. We're here at a bowl game. We didn't do enough this year. Next year, we're going to do better. If we go to a bowl game, we'll win that bowl game. But we're always aiming for the college football playoffs. That's the mindset of a coach. Notre Dame's mindset is, well, we didn't make it. I'll see you next year. Where's the motivation? If I'm a kid watching and thinking, wow, Notre Dame is like this high-end school, why do I want to commit? Why would I want to go if you're going to opt out of a bowl game because you didn't get your way? I mean, I just don't understand. The last quote was from Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach at Missouri. And this one I find funny because it is always a thing that goes around and everyone guns for the SEC. It's like, if we played y'all, we'd win. SEC's weak. We beat a team that you couldn't beat, so you're worse than us. We beat a team that you couldn't beat. I was making sure I said the right thing. But Eli Drinkwitz says, people say anytime, anywhere. I guess some people mean it, and some people don't. I mean, clean, clear cut right there. Because the arguments that are making, like, hey, we will beat you anytime, anywhere. Okay, here, let's go. If I got matched with you in a bowl game, this is your chance to prove me wrong. Anytime, anywhere, right? I don't feel like playing this bowl game. We're going to focus on next year. We've got too much to worry about. We got to focus on next year. Now, some teams have opted out due to coaching because they have a new staff coming in, a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, whatever it may be. So it's like, hey, we're going to opt out because we do have to focus on that. I understand. Notre Dame has no excuse. BYU's still taking their bowl game. They're still competing in their bowl game. They got snubbed worse than you did. But they're still going to go and compete in their bowl game. Why? Because they're competitive. Because they're competitors. Because their coach knows that team has performed day in and day out to get to where they are. And just because of this one result, they still deserve the reward of competing in a bowl game because they made it happen. That's what you should do as a coach. It's just soft for what Notre Dame's doing. Soft. And it's always been soft. Join a conference. Make your argument true and known. Go and beat the best of that conference. And then you have your argument to get into the college football playoff. Until then, have a stronger schedule. If I was Notre Dame, I'd go through and I would schedule every conference championship. Every conference champion. Texas Tech, Georgia. Probably not Tulane and James Madison, but you could still do it like that too. And then I'd go with second place, BYU, Alabama. If you go and play those games, no one's going to argue with you about your strength of schedule. Now, will you win as many games? Probably not. I understand wanting to play it safe so you could still have a good record, but look at the SEC. 9 in-conference games, 2 of those games being Power 5 and a Notre Dame game. That's how you schedule football because everyone already knows how tough the SEC is. So having 9 in-conference games playing opponents that you've never played before on a rotating schedule with 3 that are going to be consistent for 4 years, that's how you do strength of schedule. That's how you schedule to be the best and to have an argument with your record. Because if you have a good record with that kind of schedule, yeah, you deserve to be top 12. But if you're Notre Dame playing against Syracuse, I don't even know who they played, but it was nothing major. You played Arkansas this year, who was a horrific season. Yeah, you won 53-3, but Arkansas won 2 games and lost everything after the first 2 weeks. So did you really play a good team, or did you just say, oh, here's our SEC team that we won against? Okay, play the champion, play Georgia, play Alabama, play Tennessee. You played Texas A&M and lost by 1. So did you really have that good of a schedule? Because you've seen, there it is again, they play an SEC team and they can't win. Unless it was a team like Arkansas who just fell apart at the beginning of the season and didn't put any pieces back together. That's what Notre Dame needs to do. That's what I would do if I was Notre Dame. Is I would make the strongest strength of schedule, the strongest schedule, and go and compete and make my argument known for the college football playoffs. It was a very long rant. And I still have so much to talk about. So here are the teams that didn't opt out of their bowl games. Now, there's plenty of bowl games. I'm doing just the ones that have an SEC team competing. So on December 27th, you have the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, which will be number 19 Virginia versus Missouri. I think this will be a good game. Virginia did compete in the ACC championship. They unfortunately lost to Duke, so they missed their ticket to the college football playoffs. But Missouri and Virginia, it'll be a good offensive game. You'll get to see a lot of the Missouri run game. I don't think Virginia has a very good run defense. But it'll definitely be an entertaining game. Then you have the Texas Bowl, LSU versus number 21 Houston. That's also December 27th. Even with LSU going through losing Brian Kelly, and they just hired on Lane Kiffin, I don't know if Kiffin's going to be coaching this game. If my guess would probably be yes. They have the time to kind of get his playbook figured out, and he can run with the starters and everyone else and just kind of fix the fundamentals and just have this small playbook of certain plays that they're just going to continue to run over and over and over and then mix it up on when they run it. They could be writing up plays on the sideline if Kiffin is there coaching. If that's the case, this will give you an idea of how LSU is going to be in the upcoming years with Lane Kiffin being the head coach. It'll also see how much work they have to do. I understand that getting a new coach and then going and competing right away can be difficult for both the players and the coaches. The coach needs to learn the players, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then the players need to learn the playbook. And college playbooks aren't easy to learn. You have the Music City Bowl with Tennessee versus Illinois. That's December 30th. It's kind of funny that Tennessee gets the Music City Bowl. They're just going to stay in the state of Tennessee. You'd think they'd want to move teams out and about so that the players can travel. But this will be a good game. This will be very evenly matched with Tennessee and Illinois. Brett Bielema and Barry Lundy Jr. have really turned Illinois around. They're very competitive. They have a good offense. Tennessee as well has a good offense. So kind of like Virginia, Missouri, it'll be an offensive game. But I'm going to give my edge to Tennessee. I know they've struggled this season defensively, but their offense is very potent. And if they can get everything right, that seems like a good win for Tennessee. Then you have the ReliaQuest Bowl, which is number 23 Iowa versus number 14 Vanderbilt. This will be a great opponent for Vanderbilt. Iowa has been very competitive in the Big Ten. They've gone against the biggest teams in that conference. And I think they played Ohio State and had them on the ropes. Or there was one team in the Big Ten. Maybe it was Indiana. I don't know. Iowa's very defensive. They have a very strong defense. They've always had a very strong defense. Their offense isn't that great. So this is where Vanderbilt kind of gets the edge because Vanderbilt does have a really good defense. We saw it whenever they played Missouri. It was a low-scoring game, but it was defensive on both sides of the ball, but Vanderbilt came out on top. So if it goes as a defensive game, I'm going to give my edge to Vanderbilt because of Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers, and their offense. They're very creative. So you could see Clark Lee drop some trick plays and just go out there and have fun. But I think that'll be a really, really good game to watch as well. Oh, I'm struggling to get through this. Then you have the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. There we go. Number 18, Michigan versus number 13, Texas. That'll be December 31st. This is the one that's getting a lot of hype because it is Michigan and Texas. That's why. It's the names of the school. This is why it's such a big ordeal. I think Texas is going to do it, but it's only because of recent findings with Michigan. So Michigan's head coach has been fired, and he's also been arrested. If we want to relate it to SEC, he had a Bobby Petrino moment, just not as easy, I guess you would say. So, Michigan's head coach was with a Michigan staffer. He had an affair with a Michigan staffer. She's supposedly pregnant. And he was also arrested for domestic abuse, I believe. Allegedly. I have to say that, allegedly. But he was arrested, and he has been fired because of being in relations with a Michigan staff member. It just keeps looking like Michigan is getting worse and worse. First, you had the cheating scandal with Jim Harbaugh. He leaves. Moore takes over, the head coach for Michigan. He takes over. They kind of struggle. They get the win over Ohio State last year, but they still kind of struggle. The cheating allegations were still ongoing. They got to keep their national championship, even though everything that was found was true. So they kind of got a slap on the wrist, and then this happens. I mean, I don't know what you do about it, other than, I mean, from what they've already done about it. You could make the case like, hey, this happened and Michigan's still playing a bowl game, Notre Dame. I'm just going to say that Texas will more likely win because this has happened and they're going to be all flustered, needing a coach, needing something to happen. And, I don't know the latest you can opt out of a bowl game and throw a new team in there, but it seems like Michigan's going to continue to play. I guess the offensive coordinator will step in or someone will step in as an interim head coach while all this is going on. And, they've got time to figure out kind of a playbook and what they're going to do because it's not until the end of the year on December 31st. So they've got 2 weeks to really hammer it home and go and compete with Texas. And who knows? Texas could fall short. Arch Manning doesn't play that well on the road. So this will be a neutral site game on the road, not in Austin, Texas. And so Arch Manning might get flustered. Lastly, Duke's Mayo Bowl. Who's going to get the Gatorade bucket of mayonnaise dumped on them and smell like vinegar for weeks? You have Wake Forest versus Mississippi State, and that'll be January 2nd. I think someone opted out of the Mayo Bowl, and Mississippi State was the team that was chosen to replace them, so that is why Mississippi State's there. Going against Wake Forest, this will probably be another very evenly matched game. And that's it for all the bowl games for based around the SEC team. So, again, there's plenty of more bowl games. Those are just the ones where an SEC team is competing. I think they're going to be very interesting. I know if you're a fan of the teams, you will be watching because it is a bowl game. It's the last game that you'll watch your team play. I'll probably tune in to a couple of them just to see, do a little bit of research and figure out what's going on. Definitely the Vanderbilt game in Iowa. That'll be a good game. Probably Michigan and Texas. That will also be good. Maybe even Virginia and Missouri. I think that'll be a good game as well. But we're going to move on to the athlete awards. Now, some of these have already been announced. Some will be decided on December 12th. So in the next day, we will get some choices. Not even choices, but we will get results. But I will name the SEC nominations for the awards. So you have the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, which is the top upperclassman quarterback. This has already been announced, and Diego Pavia was the winner from Vanderbilt. You also had the William V. Campbell Trophy. This is also regarded as the academic Heisman, so for athletic and academic performance. That went to Eli Stowers, the tight end at Vanderbilt. Now, the ones that we're waiting... Oh, we also had the Burlsworth Trophy, which goes to most outstanding former or current walk-on. That went to North Texas's quarterback. I don't have my notebook. I have my notes and I didn't type it in. But it went to North Texas's quarterback. I know I said that I was doing SEC finalist winners and things of that sort, but the Burlsworth Trophy is based around Brandon Burlsworth, who was a player at Arkansas. And this was back in 1996 until 1998 when he graduated. Brandon Burlsworth started off as a walk-on out of Harris, Arkansas. He went to Arkansas, walked on, worked and worked and worked until he finally became a starter. He became the first ever All-American. He was also the first player to get to graduate with his master's degree before the end of his college career. And then he was drafted the 63rd pick, I believe, in the 1998 draft. Goodness, by the Indianapolis Colts. But 11 days later, he tragically passed in a car accident. And so this is a way that the Burlsworth family has gone about having his legacy live on, is with the Burlsworth Trophy. A little bit of information for you there. If you'd like to, you can go to just search Brandon Burlsworth. They also have a charity. And if you want the biopic, just watch the movie called Greater. And that'll kind of give you the story of Brandon Burlsworth. Moving on to the December 12th results, which are coming tomorrow. You have the Chuck Bednarik Award, which goes to the Defensive Player of the Year. Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M is nominated for that. The Lou Groza Collegiate Place Kicker Award, also the longest name ever for a award. Tate Sandell out of Oklahoma. The Ray Guy Award for the best punter, Brett Thorson of Georgia is nominated for that one. You have the Remington Trophy, the best center, Jake Slaughter out of Florida. The Davey O'Brien National Quarterback Award, Marcel Reed out of Texas A&M is nominated for that. You have the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the best defensive back, Mansour Delane out of LSU. Doak Walker Award, the best running back. There's two out of the SEC, Ahmed Hardy out of Missouri and Kejuan Lacey out of Ole Miss. That's going to be a close race with those two being nominated and to see who's going to win. Then there is the Doak Walker Award. Nope, I already said that one. The Warfel, I think that's how I say it, Warfel Trophy, which is the Impactful Leader in Community Service. Michael Tafe out of Texas is nominated for that. And then December 3rd is the one and only Heisman Trophy. I'm going to list all of the nominees for the Heisman. You have Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. He finished with 1,372 rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns. You also have Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana, 2,980 passing yards, 33 passing touchdowns. Diego Pavia, there's our SEC guy who has constantly been in the press and making his argument to become a Heisman winner or a nominee. He gets to take the trip to New York, finishing with 3,192 passing yards and 27 touchdowns. And then Julian Sayin, the freshman quarterback out at Ohio State, finishing with 3,323 passing yards and 31 passing touchdowns. So I wanted to go a little bit of in depth about Diego Pavia, since he did become a finalist and he's part of the SEC. So he finished with 71.2 completion percentage. It's pretty good. Total yards, he finished with 4,018. So 3,192 were just passing. The rest of that was through his rushing. Total 4,018 total yards. And then 36 total touchdowns. So you had the 27 passing touchdowns, but he had 36 total. So 9 were rushing, and he's thrown only 8 interceptions. It's a pretty good season, if you ask me. Now, there are some names that seem to be missing. Why do I say this? Because, well, I'm going to tell you. Ole Miss's quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, he threw for 3,016 yards. That's more than the favorite, Fernando Mendoza, threw, his 2,980. And he also did it in 2 fewer games. If we're going to do the Heisman the way the Heisman's supposed to be, which is the best college athlete, don't get me wrong, it's turned into a popularity contest. Fernando Mendoza beat Julian Sayin in Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference Championship, so that's why he's favorited. They've also become the number 1 seed of the college football playoff. But when you have something like this, where there's a quarterback who has thrown for more in lesser games, there's your better athlete. You also are missing Kejuan Lacey, who ran for 2 more touchdowns than Jeremiah Love. If you go solely based off touchdowns, then yeah. As far as yards, I'm not sure the difference. I should have looked it up. I didn't. I got lazy. But these are two names that should be, I mean, at least mentioned for Heisman. At least Trinidad Chambliss. You know, I just don't see why he's not a part of it. You know, he came in as a backup in week 3, and he stayed on the field. He kept leading Ole Miss into big wins. He's led them to the college football playoff. There's a lot of importance in that. But I guess because of all the news based around Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss and everything of that sort, and the Heisman being a popularity trophy rather than being the best player, then it makes sense. I'm not sure who's on the committee for Heisman or anything of that sort. I feel like a lot of the controversies with college football playoffs and candidacy comes from having committees. When everyone has their own opinion and you have chairs or committee members who are true and loyal to either a conference or a school that, you know, they want the conference of the school that they're fans of to benefit and prosper, there's too much bias. You got to find a way to rid of bias. You either pull up all the stats of every defensive back, running back, linebacker, quarterback, wide receiver, and you just take number one in all of them and say, okay, well, here's the best out of the SEC, here's the best out the ACC, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you have to base it off stats. If you're going to say you are the best collegiate athlete, you have to base it off stats. You can't do opinions. You can't say, well, he beat the number one team that's held the number one spot all season long in Ohio State and led Indiana to their first undefeated season. Like, yeah, those are good things. Those are good stories. But what do the stats say? Because that's how you determine their performance, their on-field performance, is through the stats, through their statistics. How many interceptions did you throw? How many passes? How many rushing yards? How many touchdowns? What was your completion percentage? In a way that for NFL, their QBR, what's their QB rating? There's so many other things that go into determining who's the best. Bias is not one of those things. I just don't buy it. I don't see it being something that you can convince others that they should believe in it as well. Look at last year with it's not Alshon Jeffrey. Is that his name? The Boise State running back. He should have won. But there's bias. He went to Boise State. He didn't go to a high end school or a big name school. So he was there because he deserved to be there, but he didn't win. It's just a popularity contest. I mean, that's the main conclusion that I just keep circling back to. And yeah, we'll stop there. But through all that, we're going to go on and get to the beef, not even the beef. I guess what is it? The ginger, like whenever you go and eat sushi, you got to clean your palate. The palate cleanser. There's so many different ones, but we'll get to the palate cleanser of the episode. So let's hit it off with the scripture spotlight. So this scripture spotlight is it hits close to home for me. Over the past week or so, there was a very sad, tragic car accident that happened close to my hometown and involved people from my hometown. And a total of 7 people were involved. One was an adult, there was an 18-year-old, and then there were 5 minors. And this is something that I've prayed about because I want to make sure that this comes across just. I don't want this to be something used for my benefit. I want the focus to go on these people, on this town, on the families. Because whenever I heard the news, it definitely hurt. I may not live there anymore, but it definitely played a major part in my upbringing and in my life. And I want to take the time to mention the names so that people can continue to pray for these families, for these kids that are still fighting through their injuries, through the surgeries that they're still having done, for the journey of healing that they're going to have to continue to go through. Um, Kennedy Riggs, Mason Riggs, Braxton Tilley, Maddox Harrison, and Jax Gist, or Gist. Apologies if I mispronounced your last name there, Jax. They're all still fighting through surgeries and operations, still being in a hospital, waiting to be released to go on this long road of recovery. Unfortunately, Brad King and Brady Curtright tragically passed away during this incident. And it is one who that has brought so many communities close together based around Manila. There are teams that are wearing black and gold, street vigils, memorials. There's fundraisers going on that will go on to help these families. And I've got two passages. So the first one is Matthew 5:4. It reads, "God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And it's that's just one that you think, like, you question, why God, why did this happen to me? And this goes to the King family and the Curtright family, because knocked over my tea. Blessed are those who mourn. It's like I'm mourning this loss. Why should that be a blessing? Because in that moment, that's where you fall on God. That's where you rely on God the most. You are hurting so hard, but you know that He is the one to run to. And I know Miss Curtright through the Facebook post has said all of the prayers and the faith have kept her going, and that's huge. That, I mean, oh, because it's never something that you think could happen to you until it does, and having that firm foundation and faith for the outpouring love that comes from that community and the surrounding communities, it shows. And I think this verse speaks to that. Blessed are those who mourn. She's been blessed to see the connection that her son has had throughout so many different communities and friendships and all the different lives that he's already touched. And it is beautiful. I have another verse as well, and this is one that I've seen posted through friends and family based around or on Facebook. But it's 2 Timothy 4, verse 4, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. And it says, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have remained faithful. And this is Paul writing to Timothy. And he knows that he's about to die, but he understands that he has done everything the right way. And let's see, because I've got my little study at the bottom. The good news is that the heavenly reward is not just for giants of the faith like Paul, but for all who are eagerly looking forward to Christ's second coming. Paul gave these words to encourage Timothy and us so that no matter how difficult the fight seems, we can keep fighting. When we are with Jesus Christ, we will discover that it was all worth it. And I'll leave that there. Normally I would ask you to like, subscribe, and share, but today I'm simply just asking you to pray. Pray for the names that I've mentioned. Pray for the family of the families of those who have lost a loved one. Prayer is very powerful. And so these kids have a lot that they are still fighting towards and fighting for. And a lot of these families still have things that have to be done. So I simply just ask you to pray for those families. And there's going to be no end card to the end of this video. If you watch the videos, it's simply going to be just a moment of silence for both Brad King and Brady Curtright. So thank y'all for listening and for watching this episode of Across the South.